So, a very well welcome und ein herzliches Willkommen. There was a little bit of discussion and I think miscommunication in beginning of the conference whether we should do this talk in English or German. Now, the actual we don't care. We are both working in international companies, so we know the challenges of talking English with other non-native English speakers. But we said, well, I mean, if we can decide, and this is a conference in Berlin, we can do it in German. So we prepared it in German. Now, someone just came up and asked whether this is in English or not. So we started discussing. There were a couple of people who wanted to hear it in English. So we switched back to English. Now, the problem is that as we've prepared it for German, we might have once in a while little hiccups. So I hope you excuse that. The main content, the actual test, is going to be in English, so we're good there. On the story, please bear with us a little. We try our best and do simultaneous translation, and you need to help us. Okay, well, a very well welcome. I hope you had a great day so far, had some good sessions, and here we are again. Since last year in Berlin, at the very first DevOps conference, we were allowed to join, and here we are again. How do you say, the duo infernale? I don't know. We both work in IT, and we always come from two different angles looking at things. And today, we want to present you with the DevOps test. So this is the first one, this is the last one. You won't see anything else in this area. And what we want to try is to have some tooling around some expectation management between DevOps candidates and DevOps companies. So we see in our own experiences, which we're going to tell us a little bit about, and with talking about other people, we see there's a big mismatch in the DevOps community or area. We see a big mismatch between what new candidates want in a company and what companies offer. We think companies are also not sure where this whole thing is heading for themselves. And we want to provide our thoughts to you, what you can actually do about it, and have come up with some tooling, a DevOps test. Before we start, a little bit about ourselves.
So, Matthias is always talking a bit longer than me, so our goal today is at the end of the session you will have a test at hand that you can use for yourself and your companies. So, and who created this test? It was us both. My name is Anna Löw, and yes, I'm somehow relative to the current football coach of Germany, but no last-minute tickets available, believe me, I tried that. And I'm currently working at Giant Swarm, a tech startup based in Cologne, and I'm taking care of all things that have to do with people. So I think a lot about how people in the year 2016 should work together, how do we want to treat each other, how do we want to solve conflicts, and try to fulfill all these new work approaches and be agile, fancy, startup-like. Furthermore, I take care of hiring. This is something I did basically during my whole career. And yeah, sometimes I like to work with you guys.
And I'm Matthias Lübken. I'm currently working for Red Hat. I've just joined Red Hat 2 months ago. This slide and these other experiences are from the previous companies. So we've two worked at different startups, and it was always fun to to have my own like tech background challenged by Anna. Where she always say, well, that's fine, but like, you know, let's not talk about technical details. Let's take a step back and have the person highlighted. Yeah, from these conversations, we do these kind of talks here.
And before we come to the concrete test, we'll have thousands of words. And this is the only part where we're gonna struggle a bit with English, because actually I would like to have read a story to you which started in Germany, Es war einmal, and kind of a fairy tale. So I will start now with Once Upon a Time. There was a boss of a company, let's call him Franz. He was kind of a business administration guy, and he talked to his team, to his members of staff, and he said, okay, we're now gonna implement DevOps. He did that because he's hired a new development department lead, and he's kind of agile, and he said, okay, you said we're going to implement DevOps right now, then we're going to do that. Furthermore, digital transformation we all have to cope with that. We trust each other every time, and believe me, these development guys, they're easy, they're tough to hire, and in general, it's our greatest cost block, so yes, we do this DevOps thing now. Otherwise, he's technically not interested. Then they started to implement DevOps, and they did it from the big guidebook, the 7 steps of successful DevOps implementation that match to all organizations in the world. And yes, the pilot project was okay, because they tried it on an app that was not very critical, and they had some really long-term, very loyal admins who were included in the very beginning, but then it was okay that they just be kind of knowledge workers and they come to consult from time to time. This project pilot group covered in all areas. They did all things. They took care of culture. They did a daily stand-up, but after several days, it's okay, we write emails to each other. They did automation stuff. They followed the lean approach. And it's not that we have to talk too much about that, because it was kind of a kickoff workshop. They measured stuff. They had a few feedback loops. They shared their knowledge, because when the kickoff went well, they talked about when they had a beer. So this is the end of the story, but these stories usually continue. And now the development lead said, okay, I would like to implement myself. I would like to roll out DevOps now throughout the whole organization. And he was sitting together with HR, because now he's going to hire somebody who will be like the transformer guy who will bring that. So he was sitting together with his HR lady, and they did kind of a job ad. So what did they say? They say, here in the company, we're going to have a true DevOps approach with many room of development. We have a good atmosphere here, and all team members are motivated, and really you get technical, interesting tasks. What we require from you, what should be your qualification? You love automating things. Writing bash scripts makes you sad. There is no alternative to Agile, and please have a wide experience in networking, security, and Linux. And the marketing lady was quite good, the HR lady. She posted it on the right, let's say, networks. And happily, few applications came in, and they decided to hire somebody. And they decided to hire Otto. He's 26. So quite young, he's lower than the average, but he's a real craftsman. He did an apprenticeship in Germany, quite conservative, but then his first job was in a tech startup. He's used to Agile. He has never experienced something else. He loves experiments. Failure was always an option when he worked in these companies. But then becoming 26, he decided, which is super okay and quite normal, okay, now I would really like to work in a company where more money comes in than goes out, where there's a bit of more structure, where I really have the holiday thing. And yes, he's on board, and he signed the contract, and now things happen. After 4 weeks, he realized in which kind of department am I? I don't know. My boss is the very loyal 20 years on board admin who's watching at all this implementation stuff quite calm, and he see, okay, what's gonna happen? But he's in a team with all the devs. There is 12 of them. He don't know he should get help from whom, what happened if nothing is working out. And he said, okay, it's the first 4 weeks, this happens, onboarding process. Sometimes they're a bit sloppy. I guess we've all experienced that. And after 8 weeks, he started to talk to those who considered to be his boss. And he realized, what has happened here? I'm not going to participate in stand-ups. If I have some ops issues, nobody is taking care. The dev team is not so much interested in security. Is this kind of politics in here? This company is actually well-being, and usually there shouldn't be any problems. Why is making mistakes so risky in here? Why can't I see logs of my colleagues? Why do I have to do a purchase order when I would like to have a new machine? Who was doing what in this company? And I mean, this is fulfilled with stereotypes, and I know maybe a bit packed, but if we're going to shorten the story now, nothing changed because nobody knows what to change, and Otto hands in his rejection, and after 3 months he said, okay, I'm going to move on, I will find another job. So now, development leader, the lawyer admin guy and the HR lady are sitting together and think about why did this happen?
And although this is a fairy tale, Anna can point to every single piece of it as being true, right? This might be condensed or might be a little bit exaggerated, but it's still true. There was a new guy, he was hired. It's by the HR department in general did a good job matching people or did a good job presenting the company to the world, put it in the right forums. So it was not a classical presentation, but it was rather good. And then here we are, the people talking about the same car, the same type, and have a totally different understanding of what actually happened. And this is the experience that we had, and the epiphany that, okay, we need to do something about this. So what we rather like, the guy in the startup, the first thing he wants to do is write an app for that, right? So we presented our idea to a VC, and we said DevOps, Tinder for DevOps. Well, it didn't turn out that good. No, that's a joke. But story aside, we wanted to how can we match those people? How can we match the DevOps dude to some e-corporation and have them related to each other and actually make them be aware of the same things that they want to talk about. We sat together and thought about, okay, what do we think about DevOps and how can we do this? So we came with our definition of DevOps, and we finally defined DevOps. Now, I hope that we in this room don't have a consensus DevOps definition. I hope it's different within the room. So please bear in mind, this is now our view of the world. But we wanted to have a starting point. And we think that this is also could be a good exercises for other companies. So we have 8 areas which we think are important when we think about defining our DevOps culture and our DevOps practices. The first one is feedback cycles, right? With all agile movement, you always want to install feedback cycles, have a continuous communication, and you also want to make sure that they are present within DevOps. It's not a pure agile thing for development, it's also for DevOps. The next one, you want to do some craftsmanship around your work within DevOps. It's not solely about throwing over some scripts, writing some recipes, but also about how do I write the best recipes on the world? How is their test? Does test-driven approach make sense? How do I continuously develop, make myself better, a better craftsman with DevOps? So the whole software craftsmanship, I think, is also applicable for DevOps. Experiments, very important part, because if you see different people from different organizations, from different backgrounds, from development and ops, you see that they have a very different view on just starting something and falling it over, right? Different parts of the equation, and certainly an area you want to talk about. And the last thing, my last part, which I think is important if you talk about DevOps and want to define something around it, is the experiences. If you think about feedback cycles, craftsmanship, and all these other areas, everyone comes with a total different set of experience, so that someone from more the admin ops point of view has a very different view on the world than someone who has done application development and just threw over some jar files and have called it a day and didn't need to take care of the operations. So very different experiences that clash together.
And if we're now going to switch to the beautiful right side of the slide, which is the softer things, we added a few other because for me, I didn't know what was DevOps 10 years ago because I was not so much interested in it. But the thing with implementing new things, with taking care about a mindset where new people come in and have to adapt to. This is nothing new in HR, business administration, boring world. It's simply called change management. And this is also kind of a buzzword where you think, oh, come on, we're going to step into the bullshit things now. But we try to eliminate a few things that for the DevOps mindset, for our one, which we both agreed on, and which was more or less counting for our own companies, need to be added from the softer side. So the first thing would be knowledge transfer. In general, it's two former divided departments are now going to work together. The colleagues are different. They have a different background. They have maybe a different education. And they have to exchange their knowledge. And it's not only about, okay, the former A's write a blog post to do some kind of documentation, but please don't forget your daily business. It's about that even the upper management has to agree on knowledge transfer is part of your job, and you have to be happy to find out methods to do so. And especially for the ops guys, who are usually not as many as the others, they have to be happy to train the people, especially in smaller companies where you don't have all the other coaching approaches that usually are working out. And the second point is the target conflict thing. When we were practicing the talk, it was kind of funny because if you have the Ziel conflict or the target problem thing, I explain everything in life with that. People have different interests, that's why they behave like that, and that's why that is the outcome. And he would say, oh no, and I don't say that this is the bullshit bingo word. It's something that is super important and we have to take care of. And that's absolutely super right. It's the team have to know each other, that by definition they have different targets, different aims. And if you have this security versus velocity stuff, it's okay to have these. And if people know each other, that they have swapping targets, then half of the rent is paid, half of the problem is already solved, because you have to create kind of an infrastructure that people talk about these things. Another point, which is also part of the DevOps mindset, which we considered, was the ops people have to be happy with the fact that they are the minority, usually in, let's say, normal companies. If you're included in a team and you feel, okay, it's my team, you still are a person that has another background and is specialist in another topic. And you have to cope with that, and you have to be happy with that. The last point, this is the super German word, it's Arbeitnehmerprozesse, which means it's more or less employee processes, which means in general that if you have two teams, they have different backgrounds. Maybe these people have different salaries. Maybe career paths have been defined differently. Maybe the way you communicate is different. Maybe the way you give each other feedback is different. And if you would like to create a real DevOps mindset, you have to create one new for everybody. So this is meta, and I know that, and let's try to become a bit more concrete. How to test this mindset. How to test this mindset for yourself. How to test this mindset for your employer. And feature one, test this mindset that the company is not able to lie. Part of my job is writing job descriptions or job ads, and of course there is this part of writing job ads which is slightly advertising, and we try to figure out that this is not possible. So companies should have the possibility to present themselves without being able to cheat. So what would we do to come together? This mindset is so broad, and there's a huge danger of jumping into the bullshit bingo world. So we did a bit of research. I took the advantage of my job that I simply ask applicants, what do you want to know about my company regarding to DevOps? I mean, they knew that they were used for this experiment, so it was more or less all right. And the short point is we did the concrete test. Yeah, how did we do that?
Oh no, you spoiled it. Who knows about who knows Stack Overflow? Oh, come on, keep the hands up. You're cheating. So, and who knows about the Job test? Okay, quite a few hands. So we actually stole the idea of the Job test. So if you now, what is the translation for Stellenanzeige?
Job advertisement.
The job advertisement. If you create a job advertisement, something you see at the bottom is that you can add some attributes to your company, and you can say whether you want to highlight these attributes. So what are those? These are, for example, do you employ testers? Do you use version control? Are you using the best tools for the jobs? So what you can do is actually when you create this Stellenanzeige?
Job advertisement.
Job advertisement. When you create this job advertisement, you can actually choose to present your company with a couple of attributes and say, okay, these are the attributes. And if you look through these attributes, they are very concrete. So the best tool for the jobs, well, if you say we are using the best tools for the job and you are entering the new company and you get an old Windows notebook 3 years ago, right, which is 3 years old, you kind of have an issue, right? You can't really say that you're using the best tool for the job. So this is a means, these are our means, are a couple of properties which you can present yourself as a company and applicants can look for it. And we took that idea and thought, well, we actually like it, and we want to take it, but we kind of different aspects we didn't like. And the other thing is, what we didn't really like was it's like a hard, although we like that it's very concrete and that you can really discuss these concrete things, we really didn't like that there are yes and no questions. We rather wanted to have some range. So we came up with some new questions, which I would like to present to you now. So it's the ultimate number of 14 questions which defines every DevOps company again. So again, take these as questions that if we build our company and one new DevOps company that we want to present ourselves, and we think should be the applicant should also look at it and have their own rating, whether they think this is important or not. From this mindset we come. Okay, 14 questions, bear with me. The first two. The first one, so we saw Git control, and he's taking screenshots. You can, please do so. But we have a surprise at the end. So, I mean, yeah, we are at the DevOps conferences. We did it differently, so not a PDF. Okay. How do you control your source, right? We can now talk about the details, and I love to talk with the details, and Erkan and me were going to fight. The point is that we have different levels. People are still don't use source control, and others should actually, or myself, I actually got introduced to the whole pull requests workflow, and I couldn't live without it anymore. So I think having this kind of scale here and think where are we within the company is super critical and a very important question for DevOps. Next question, so 14. Next question, how fast is a change deployed in production? We're talking about weeks, months, days, or minutes, right? Again, I guess everyone is sitting back and thinking about their own environment and say, Jesus, please don't ask me. That's not the point. The point is whether we think we're working on this or not, whether we think this is something to be highlighted or not, whether we think this should be discussed with an applicant. Next questions. What is the mean time to fix a bug, right? So we're talking about the overall system here. We're not only talking about features. We want to have a quality system. How long are we new bugs? How long are they going to be in? How long? Next question. How long does a developer need to get a critical computing resources? Right? We're not talking about, okay, you have an AWS account and you just start something to run some tests. That's the easy part, right? The AWS consultants run around these conferences, you get some voucher, and then you're there, and it's all good. The question is about the critical parts, right? Now you suddenly realize that you have a rollout and you need more. Now what? Are you back in the days of actually trying to get something via email, some issue system, and it takes weeks? Or is this automated? Or do you live the dream of having a fully Kubernetes cluster, or OpenShift cluster, I should say, running, and that you have all the computing resources available? Next, do you have central logging? So logging is always in pain, so we should have central logging, period. But does everyone know about it? Is everyone using it? Does everyone using dashboards? Again, this is a question an applicant is looking for. Maybe it's not that important for him, but it highlights what the company is looking for. The performance of our system is monitored. Performance is an issue. Do you take this seriously? Is it continuously measured, or do you take it like 2 weeks before rollout? You call the guys from StormForger and say, let's do something, or do you continuously monitor that? How do you transfer knowledge between dev and DevOps? So, okay, now we have this new organization, and Otto, the new guy, has arrived. How do we exchange knowledge in that? Are we still talking about specialists? Or do we start exchanging information? Or do we have really regular pairing sessions? Infrastructure, code quality. So we're now talking about the craftsmanship of this world, of this area. Are we taking the craftsmanship here seriously? And are there just some bunch of scripts laying around? Or do we have sessions around this? Or do we actually do test-driven development around those? I'm not sure whether this is a good idea or not, but this is something to be discussed. How is your DevOps integrated in team communication? Are they still in 2 different buildings? And are we still writing emails and that's it? Or like a little slightly better, if there's something urgent happens, I can run over and talk to the guy? Or do we have regular meetings? Do we actually integrate them, right? everyone is talking about DevOps, but are they really integrated? Do they share a stand-up even, right? Another point. How do you measure progress within DevOps topics? So you have these DevOps topics. We need to switch from Chef to Ansible. Ansible is the way to go now. This is a transition, right? We need to take different steps, different things. How do we measure this? Is this actually like a full integrated approach in our development cycle? Or is this just like, yeah, do this and come back to me once everything is in Ansible? Do you have trained DevOps colleagues? So, well, this happens, right? I do ops. I now write chef recipes. I'm the DevOps guy. Period. That's it. Well, maybe there's more to it, right? Maybe this whole movement is more to it, and maybe I need specialists around these, and it's actually some more to it. I don't know where the certification area what the certifications are doing. The point is that we want to have quality and good training around these. This is a high-skilled job. It's not just an iteration on some ops and some dev ideas, but it's a high-skilled job, so we need to invest in that. And we need to invest in people who then also share this knowledge and train others. Ops topics are covered during retrospectives. So there's one agile coach said, if you do anything agile, start with retrospectives and iterate from that, which I would agree. Now, if you do retrospectives, but none of the DevOps topics come up, because from our experience, the DevOps colleagues are often not the most prominent in the team. They're often the minority. There's like one DevOps guy for the whole team for like 7 or 8. It's usual that these topics are not present, and especially if there's some if it's more like an ops admin guy person doing this job who's really like eager to learn all this. He's maybe not that outspoken that others with a huge DevOps experience. So how do these topics come up? Do they actually come up? And again, we have all the tools for that, right? We have Scrum Masters who can take care of that, who can talk to persons and see that these things bubble up. Important point is someone taking care of this, and in the usual feedback cycles within teams are these topics bubbling up? 2 more. People with dev and ops backgrounds are on the same salary grids. Now, the IT people here, there's like, well, don't get me started with this kind of things, right? But once you're down the road, I'm experiencing these things when I'm down the road and the Kind ist in den Brunnen gefallen, if it's too late. But Anna is actually like she's making us aware of these topics. Take care of this as they are being integrated. They need to be at one part of the time need to be on the same salary grid. So there's no conflict. The conflict is going to happen. You choose when, right? You choose whether you proactively work on it or not. And also a very important topic, which we also think within this whole DevOps culture movement is individual feedback cycles. So you as a team member, how do you get feedback cycles? How do you get feedback from your colleagues, from your peers, from your boss? Different areas around it, how you could do it. The important part here, again, we're talking about a cultural movement, this matching between people, and it's important to take this seriously and have it on your agenda.
Time to breathe.
Not yet.
No, so now we have these 14 questions. Why have we selected these? We didn't come up with other ones. We would love to discuss with you. And when we came from the Job test, and Matthias is agile, hippie long enough is really deep into, no, not everything in this world is black and white. But sometimes when I'm working with others of my colleagues, they really love answers 0, 1, or yes or no, or black or white. But when we were thinking about the point, and that's something I would really like to mention again, this DevOps thing is so unconcrete and is so in transition, and it would be unfair to force companies to say, okay, do you do it or don't you do it, because actually you wouldn't have any content with this message. So now it's these 14 questions, and I hope we'll change, maybe one even today in this room or over the time when we get feedback, what to do with them. We have to go back to Tinder and think about this matching aspect. And this is done in Excel, and it's not the alternative for the PDF thing. We'll come to this later. We find a solution for that, but that's the important part. It's about finding out who takes care of what. So you as a company, you do your profile, and maybe this is transferred in the job ad, or maybe you publish it if you are proud of that, or you can also do that later in the recruitment process. And the applicant for itself, he can answer the question like, have I worked with these things, or do I care and want to learn them? Because you don't have to be 5 points at every, or 6 points at every corner to be a good company. This is super bullshit. It's just about the matching. Do you care about the same things, or are you in the same stage to cover these things? And yes, it's the more technical aspects, it's sometimes the more social aspects, or sometimes even the way of maturity of the company, like having salary grids for companies without with less than 50 people. It's kind of ridiculous, you don't need that. But you figure out what's happened with these things. And that's basically the road we are currently traveling. Our next step is definitely to collect feedback. I will try to do it in the recruitment process. With my candidates, and I will try to do a little workshop with my colleagues to fill out and be really honest in the own points of the own company, because there's still room to cheat. I know that. And my candidates should play with these things as well if they're interested in. And I think in the next version of my job ad for our SRE and DevOps engineers, I will try to integrate it. But I mean, happy startup, we build everything from scratch. It's way easier because it's not this kind of transformation process. And yeah, I would like to play a little bit with you guys. And no, this was what you would like to say.
So now you can take your camera and take a picture. Anna just this morning did her first Git commit. So a round of applause for Anna. Right? Here's the URL. We put it in a plain markdown. Please star it, please fork it, and please send us pull requests around different wording, different scaling, different kind of questions. Because this is like a first shot. And whether we incorporate the pull requests or not, we just want to start the discussion and hope that this is meaningful to you. But since we're here, right? We thought, why don't we just start the discussion now?
Yes, and before I come to the original questions, because when I had the chance to look at you when Matthias was presenting the questions, what do you think? Who is earning more money, the dev guys or the ops guys? Who's for the dev guys? Okay, and the ops? You're wrong.
Switch careers.
Yes, I mean, it always depends on which kind of study you look at, blah, blah. That's definitely for sure. And the ops guys, usually they are a bit older because there are different career paths how to get through that. But in general, yes, developers are earning more money. But now,
so how is the DevOps? So we have the dev and the ops. So should I do DevOps career-wise?
There is no recent studies to really find out. In general, you earn more. because it's a new approach, and that's always like being a fancy Silicon Valley whatever developer. Try that in your next salary negotiation. I don't know if that's going to work out. If yes, send me an email, because I will also think about find another job for me what I can combine. I don't know if you guys had made kind of the test in your brain for your company when Matthias was presenting all the question. Maybe start with one to make it a bit easier for here. Let's start with the feedback topic first. You will have an option of 3 now, so choose wisely. There is no implemented feedback process in your company. There's a feedback process which is individual, annual, or every 6 months based. Or the third one is you guys have regular implemented different types of feedback, true retrospective, no retrospective, acting, and individual feedback as well. So who's one, if you would like to answer? If not, then we go to the technical question.
So no is no.
1 is no feedback, 2 is once in a year or every 6 months, and 3 is the regular thing, all feedback you want. So who's 1? Who's 2? Okay, so who's 3? So it's basically between 2 and 3, so first steps are already done.
You wonder if that's true. Yeah, good. So the next question, how easy would you get resources? Again, like we're talking about critical resources, right? We're not talking about some company credit card where you just like launch some AWS machine on your expense reports and that's it. But we're talking about, okay, we've implemented that feature, it was rather fast, and it's going to be a hit, so I need more resources. 3 options again. The first options, it takes me weeks to get the resources, and there's a formal process around it. Secondly, there's a process around it, but it's rather optimated, and I can actually influence it. It's automated. And 3, you're living the OpenShift Kubernetes world dream. Okay, so where critical resources in your day work, who needs weeks for adding critical resources? Okay, who needs days and it's rather automated and you can influence it rather fastly? Well, more or less the same. And who has a fully automated? He keeps his hand up. Who? Huh? You have a little bit of all. And who's has like full resources and can just like declaratively say, I need more CPU power, and bam, you have it. We need to talk. Now, oh, seriously. Now, who actually, now, this is important. Now, who thinks this question is relevant to your DevOps environment? Who thinks you need to put this question on a questionnaire? Good. Because that's the discussion we need to make, right? Maybe for some companies it's like, well, these are so minor things, and it's not really that day-of-day work. So once a year when we add resources, what's the deal? But that's nice. Okay.
And the final question, if you put all the questions in one bowl, and the final question is according to your personal opinion, because that is what counts in the end. Would you consider your company as to have ops fully integrated? It's not that they have to be pushed into the dev thing, but would you think ops is fully integrated? There's one DevOps team. What would you say? Yes? Who's saying yes? Okay, so there's still work to do. And that's basically, after we're going to finish, and I'm happy to have your questions, what is missing in the test? Is there anything we said, oh, come on, these guys have been working in small companies for a long time, not now, but a long time. They totally forgot about something. Do you have any feedback? What did we miss in the test? What didn't match?
What are the questions that you would like to present, or would you like to see at other companies in DevOps practices at a scale, or where would you like to highlight yourself when looking for new applicants? And you know that every answer is actually basically saying we did a bad work, but please go ahead.
What I'm missing is about the measurement of business KPIs.
Business KPIs. Oh, you're talking about like the full circle, and we're actually not just implementing something ourselves, but actually doing something for the business. Yeah, we didn't think about that. No, that's a very good point, right? So that's like the 3 ways of DevOps, and one part is like taking the overall life cycle and integrating to that. Yeah, I like that. Pull requests are welcome. The question is how would you word that, right? I feel it's hard to have it measurable. So do you work on business critical things? No, we just do things. Right, everyone would say that it's critical and somehow important, but I think
You have the performance monitored, but why don't you monitor business KPIs?
yeah, the question is how do you? But yeah, I love that. The question is how do you measure them, and that's always hard. I mean. Yeah, so you put some number of sales and number of views related to some feature. Wow, you're good if you do that. I mean, you're good. Now, in general, that's just saying that's an awesome. But let's think about the question. How can we actually put that in a question which is very tangible, very measurable, where you can say, well, we are at the 2 or at the 5.
It's in my opinion, it's about visibility of the business to the DevOps engineer. Becomes the business effort visible to the DevOps engineer?
Yeah, a typical question is the DevOps guy allowed to talk to the product owner or the product management, right? Or is he not allowed? Right? Does he actually know what the next releases, next milestones are about, and what the overall business idea around it is? Yeah.
Interested to do that?
Well, yeah. I mean,
That's our experience at the moment.
that he's not.
That they are probably not. They just want to be kept in their own world.
Fair enough, but you need to have someone within the team that is taking care of that, right? You don't want to have it that there's a whole team just implementing features and building things in a dev or ops or DevOps environment, whatever. You always want to make sure that someone knows within the team and like in the daily stand-ups knows what the business value of this is, what we're currently doing.
But tests should be addressed.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is debatable. I know.
Some participants who might have no interest in.
Right. Maybe it's no. I agree. Maybe it's there are guys who are actually say, well, you know what? I don't want to take care of this shit, right? Someone else needs to make sure that we have the right features, and I want to make sure that I implement them right. So maybe the 0 is a good point for the individual DevOps guy. Yeah.
Exactly, that's the point. It's about making the things transparent and then talk. It's not about being a good or a bad person, whatever kind of score you have. You just have to... Okay, the wider way is me doing HR, me hiring people. I had to really learn what does my team want. Because typing in DevOps and then have a look at it, it's like a job like, I mean, you don't know what kind of person this is. And this should just help. What is necessary for the team and what is necessary for the person that they will match in the end.
So 15 questions we have now. You are doing the pull request for the wording for the next one, and now we go for number 16.
Yeah, what about builds?
Builds.
Are you building locally? Are you using a build server? Do you have a deployment pipeline?
Yeah. I missed that. How did I miss that? I had the number. I think I had the number of builds or something, and that was kind of stupid, so I threw it out. But you're right. Yeah. So there. Yeah. obviously there's CI/CD, something needs to be something. Again, measurable, right? So show of hands, who has not integrated some continuous delivery, some continuous integration in their workflow? Who has not integrated it? Right, we are the DevOps conference. Yeah, don't show your hands. I'm not. All right. So again, right, you want to have some measurable, because if you only write we are using CI, well, everyone says like check mark. That's how you do software development. The question is, how do you? I mean, local build server, okay, but now how do you take the next levels? But good point. Yeah, we need to integrate that. Well, we don't. So how would you? So the question is, how do you integrate something around QA?
Automated tests, manual tests.
Mm-hmm. So who should think that QA should be done with automated testing? Oh, this is the QA side. These are the automated guys. They have the QA departments. No, again, valuable discussions around that. How good are your automated tests? How much of that is automated? I wouldn't personally answer that everything needs to be automated. So I don't know if I put that QA on a pure scale, that it's like automated QA is the best thing to do. I think there are valid areas where you do something else. But again, a good point that we need to, at least have a discussion around it. Again, if you just throw out words or just throw out themes, as we did in the beginning, just have these areas. If you just highlight these areas, you won't have a good, knowledgeable discussions. What you want to have are concrete things where you can discuss and agree and disagree upon. Okay, one final.
Are you contributing to open source?
Are you contributing to open source? I love that personally, right? Working at an open source company, but would you say this is a general valuable for? Well, I agree. Dev candidates are looking for this. I agree. So, yeah, I like it. I mean,
it's also about maintainability. Like if you have a problem with some open source project and you contribute a patch, then it's in the project. Maintain it, like
right. And with this fast-moving world, right? All these custom tooling within companies, right? It's just plain stupid, right? You wanna use open source tools with commercial support or something. I'm not cut off the sales thing, but you wanna use open source tools, right? How much of open source tools are you using, and giving the time to contribute back, because only that way this whole community is rising. So we are at some point of the time, so you can come up to the stage and we can have more discussions. We can have more discussions during lunch or during, is there beer tonight? I hope there's beer tonight. During beer tonight. With that said, thank you very much for joining. Thank you much for having us and listening to us, and for the great feedback.
Thank you.